Hi, I'm Kevin Doherty, and welcome to my video on carving a cottonwood wood spirit out of cottonwood bark. Here I have a small piece of cottonwood bark here. Alright, I'm going to try and stay out of the video as much as I can so you can see everything I'm doing. A lot of people ask me all kinds of questions when I do videos. Number one is, how do you clamp it? Alright, so I'm going to show you that today, right from the beginning. All I have is a piece of board here mounted into a vise. Okay, and the vise is on, actually it's on a little craftsman work table. Okay, you can buy those anywhere. So it's not really a lot of work, right? Get a nice flat piece of board, put it in a carving vise or put it in a regular vise. You know, any way you can figure out to stand it up, you can build something out of wood even. As long as you have a board that you can clamp your piece to. Alright, I like to usually drill holes in the back of the board and then I'll clamp it from behind right in the wood. But if you don't want holes in the back of the wood, you can do it this way, which is usually the cheapest and the easiest way. Go out and get yourself a nice quick grip clamp like this, right? You see these in the store, right? And that's all I'm going to use to clamp it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is stick it up here on the board, just like that, right? And then I'm going to clamp it at the top. Don't mind my back here. Just enough to hold it. Make sure it's nice and sturdy, okay? And that's it. So I just put the clamp around the board, squeeze the piece of wood onto the board, alright? Cottonwood bark's pretty easy to carve, so that shouldn't be too bad. It should hold for you. If not, you can always drill directly through the board in the back, like I said, and put a couple screws in. That'll hold the wood. No clamps are in your way at the top. But we're going to take the clamp off later if I want to do some hair up there. But for now, this is how we're going to do it. Now I'm trying to see, by looking at the wood, about what I want. So this is a nice little shaped piece of wood. This piece was about twice as long. What I did was I cut it in half. That way I can get two nice wood spirits out of it. It's probably about 3.5 inches thick, and it's Montana cottonwood bark. Okay, so from this point, what we have to do is we have to clear a lot of this bark off. And to save time on the video, I'm going to be shutting the camera off when I do some of this. Right, that way you have a better idea of what I'm doing. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll do a little bit of it on camera, and then to save time and tape, I'll go off camera and finish the process. Right. But before every major detail, I'll definitely make sure you know what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself a nice chisel, flat one, and I'm going to take all this off. Alright, I want to try and form a nice wedge shape and let it go high in the middle and then fan out to the sides like that. Alright, that way I can build my face on top of that, and it's going to be a lot easier to round off. But first I got to get all the rough exterior bark off, and I'm going to try and leave some bark on the sides because I like the way that frames the carving, right? And that's usually the ones that sell the best. Okay, so I'm going to find my tools. After this introductory section, I'll get them together, and we'll come back and we'll carve this piece of cottonwood bark. Okay, usually I do this with a big flat chisel, but I'm going to show you that you can go out and get a little tiny flex cut chisel. I use flex cut because if you go to a carving store, you can always find flex cuts. Right, this right here is a nice flat with kind of a very light sweep on it. Alright, I don't know exactly the number. I think it's a number 11. But what we're going to do is we're going to take some of this wood off. Now you can start with a stop cut up here and then push your cut up into that stop cut. So all I'm going to do is come up here and push in and leave some bark on the top, because I do want to leave some bark on the top of a lot of these. I'm just going to give myself a little bit of a stop cut up there so I have something to cut up too. And then I'm just going to clear some of this wood off. Okay. Bringing it up into that stop cut. Don't worry if it's not perfect, we're just getting some wood off for now. Now this is a really thick piece, it's going to take me a while to take some of this down to where I want it. So it might take a little longer than I want for a video. So I might go off camera and do that. I'm just trying to show you the whole idea behind forming a wedge shape into this wood. Okay. And if you don't want to go past any point, make sure you always make a stop cut. Montana cottonwood bark is a really nice bark. Very thick though, so when you're making a small carving like this, you really got to take it down. Where you want first. It's all about setting up the shape of the carving first. Now I do have my foot on this little table because I don't have this mounted on my workbench for this video. Okay, so that's all we're doing. We're taking the wood off, or the bark off, to get down to this carvable wood. Now I'm going to shape that up. Again, I'm going to try and make a nice shape that's high in the middle, and then kind of fans out to both ends. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera, and I'll shape this the way I want, trying to get it to flow out to the sides, and get down into a little bit of depth in the good wood, a lot of the bark off, and then we'll make a carving. Alright, we'll start our carving from there. Okay, now as you can see, I cleared a lot of the bark away. Now, I didn't use a center line because this is a smaller piece, but if you want to, you can use a center line to keep everything symmetrical. So maybe I'll use a center line for the purposes of the video here. I'm just going to try and pretty much establish the center about to where I want to stay here. Right. And what I did to show you is I went from that point, right, and pretty much just went out to the side, you know, from that point, and formed that nice little wedge shape, because it's going to be a lot easier to flow everything off of the face and into over here on the side where the bark is still showing there, and on this side, to where it's a lot smoother. It'll be a nice smooth transition, in other words, you know, from the features into the hair and whatnot. Right. Kind of keeps it symmetrical. It doesn't have to be perfect, because actually the more that these things are a little bit off, they actually look a lot cooler. Right. So you just want to use your imagination, find out about, I want to make the whole face pretty much in this area here. So I'm going to take most of the wood and use almost the whole piece. Sometimes you have a lot bigger piece, you can let all the hair just flow right down in the beard, which is really nice too. But trying to keep it so it's big enough, because it's a small piece, it's about 12 inches, maybe a little less, so you guys can see it on the video here. All right. Now, you got your center line established. Don't worry about that, because that's going to come off. And what we're going to do is dig in the forehead up here just a little bit more, so I'm going to make a stop cut around there. I should also mention you should wear a glove. I've been doing this a long time. I don't recommend that you do without a carving glove. Alright, I keep my fingers out of the way. I've learned my lessons too. But carving is very dangerous. These tools are sharp. Definitely wear a carving glove, especially if you're new. Do not follow in my footsteps. Again, you take up any kind of sharp tool in your hand, you're risking getting cut. And carving tools give you really big boo-boos, so make sure that you purchase a good carving glove from a carving store. There's plenty out there on the internet. Alright, what I'm going to do here is just establishing, getting a little bit of shadow underneath there to where we're going to tuck the hair under. Don't worry about when I remove the line. You can always draw it back on. One thing about the carving, when you use carving tools, it is sculpting, but it's a lot different than sculpting for you artists out there. It's sculpting kind of, I think of it as sculpting in reverse. You can put wood or take wood off when you're carving. You can't put it back on. Right? When you're sculpting, it's a lot easier, I think, because when you sculpt something, you don't like it, you could just add another piece. You can take a piece off, change it around. With carving, you have to kind of know the dimensions of the face way beforehand and think in reverse, because once you take something off, that's it. And you better hope that you have a lot more wood left. So we try not to take off what we're going to need, and that comes through practice and trial and error. But try not to go too far and not leave yourself anything in case a nose breaks off or something. You want to make sure that you still have enough wood to carve another nose. Okay. Alright, so what we're going to do is start with some basic dimensions. Usually with a face, you can break it down into thirds, they say. You can go from like the top of the hairline here. Go down a third, and that is where we can set the eye channel. So if I split this into threes, 1, 2, 3, I could come halfway down, or I could keep it real close up here. I like to make it a little bit higher than a third, so for this size here, I'm going to go right about there. Right, and that's where our eyes are going to be. Now if I come down a little bit from there, and these are not set in stone. That right there is where my nose is going to be about. And he probably looks a little off because he's kind of leaning back on the board. I'll pick him up and show him to you later. But I'm looking at him almost straight on. He's just a little bit angled back though with the camera angle and stuff. I like to have him leaning back a little for carving. So he might be at a slant for you guys if things don't look quite centered. Alright, what we're going to do is I like to start with the eyes. Now there's a lot of ways you could do that. We'll try and keep it as simple as possible. I'm going to take a V tool. We'll do it that way. And I'm just going to run my V tool right across that eye line that we just put in there. Okay? Just to get it started. That's all we're doing is just making a line, trying to stay out of the camera. Take some good wood out there. Get pretty deep, especially towards the center. Okay. And all I did was cut a groove right across there. And I can do the same for the nose. But what I like to do, a lot of people ask me about noses, and if you want to make a really decent nose, there's a lot of ways to do a nose. See if I have the size tool that I want. Well, we'll do it this way. I like to use a gouge and make it round, but we'll try and show you, for those that don't have some tools, just how to do it with the same thing, a nice flat chisel. Alright? I'm going to come a little bit under that line. I'm just going to make a stop cut. Okay? Make sure you push up easy. Remove that wood. Take a little wood out. So I can get that to stand out. Just like that. Okay, now for now that's all I'm going to do. I want a little bit of wood out from underneath there so I can start setting up my other dimensions. Alright, so I take that all out with a flat chisel for now. You can use a gouge, like I said, it gives you a lot more roundness, but I'll show you how to round things off then. And what we're going to do is we're going to take from about the tip of the nose, we're going to push back and into that eye channel. I'm going to invert my tool this way. Okay, I'm not going to use it regular. I'm going to turn it upside down. Right up here, it's going to shave off that pencil line too there. I'm going to push it back and into that eye channel there. Right. This will give it a nice appearance from the side. When I view it from the side, that nose actually is going to go up and under that eye bridge. Okay. We're just angling that back a little bit. I'm going to come on the sides over here with a gouge, and I'll show you how that works to dig that in. gouge has a little bit more of a sweep on it. Okay, it's a little more circular, a little more round. I'm going to come to the corner of the nostril here, and I'm just going to push that up. Just like that. Move it to the side. Start coming in from the side. And then across the top. I'm going to dig in pretty close. Now you want your eyes to be about a nose width up here. So you don't want to go too close in here. I'm going to do the same on this side. These are just little flex cut tools. I'm not even putting them in the handle here. Sometimes I just hold them without changing the handles all the time. Okay. I'm doing it on each side. I'm going to establish about the thickness I want that nose. Okay, then we're going to turn that over and push that up in. And just keep shaving as we go. And down to the side. When you get down here by the nostrils, kind of fan it out a little bit so it blends into that side of the face there. Okay. Should get my knife here. Okay, now I'm going to show you another little thing we do. Is we're going to see the line up here? We're going to take that line out with a little V tool. I like to use a gouge for this, but since the V tool is here, I'm going to come straight down and separate that a little bit. See that? And then push it up right up to the hairline. Leaving a big crease right there in his forehead. I'm going back to the tool I was just holding by hand. Right? I can put it in my handle if I need to, but I don't really need to. Cottonwood, again, carves are really easy, so I'm just going to come across up here, leaving room for eyebrows. Alright, see that? I'm going here. Just kind of take some wood off there. You want the forehead above them kind of flat. Okay. Now, that's where we're going to leave that for right now. Just to separate those eyebrows a little bit. Right. I'm going back to the nose. I'm going to clean that up on the sides a little. And I'm going to go out from here, the corner of his eye. I want to push that over a little bit because there's little divots here on the sides of the temple. So I'm just going to scoop a little wood out of there. Make it go pretty far across so I have room to get that eye in. Okay. Now don't worry about all the little pieces that are up in here. They clean up pretty fast. Right. You have all these little fuzzies. Get a piece of 220. Sand that up. It'll come right out. Alright, now we have established where we want to put the nose, the eyes, right, the forehead. Down here is going to be a mustache. We're going to round all this off, right, and then we can draw lines for our mustache and everything. But you can see his face already starting to shape up, right. So what I'm going to do is take that flat gouge again. I'm going to round this over underneath his nose. Just to keep everything kind of flowing off to the side. Again, I'm keeping it high in the middle. Watch out you don't cut your nose off there. I always like to round out to the sides. Make sure I have room. Put everything else. It's a little high on this side, and I have a divot on this side, which is still not quite as symmetrical as the other side because the shape of the wood. but could make them look pretty neat. Actually, what we've done. So keep smoothing that over, make it round this way. Okay, so you're trying to go around this way. Leave yourself plenty of room on the sides, especially by the eyes when you put an eye in. And then you want eyebrows and stuff up here. You won't have room over here unless you clear enough wood away on the sides. All right. Still trying to keep it framed. Pretty good with that bark. And shaping the nose a little. Now down in here, I'm going to angle that nose just a little cleaner. Because we're going to add some nostrils later on. Okay. Starting to look a little bit like somebody. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to a round gouge. This right here is the same one that I used before. It's a little bit too big maybe. Well, I guess that'll work. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the corner. These are round here, so if I would actually dig that in just a little bit, I would see about the roundness side. The tip of the nose is round. Okay, so I'm going to kind of give myself a round point at the bottom there. Push that in to round it off. Just like that. Okay, now I have the roundness at the tip of the nose, and I'm going to pick up where I just left off. Make sure that's established good. Pick up where I just left off and invert this gouge. And right at the end where that last cut was, I'm going to dig it in, and over to the corner, I'm going to dig real deep. Okay, just like that. Same thing on this side. Turned over, dig it in, and round that over to the corner pretty deep. Then we're going to remove the chips out from underneath here with the same gouge. Trying to go slow enough so you can see. I don't really know how good you can see on the camera. I'm hoping when I go to edit this that you can see everything I'm doing. Okay, so you see how we established the wing angle here, right? If one's a little higher than another, you can mess around with it. You know, you can always change the features. And like I said, if it's a little bit off, no biggie. He's still going to end up looking pretty neat when we're done, I think. Okay, now that gives us a point to put our nostrils in. Now you can use a knife. We could draw them in, make sure they're symmetrical. You know, let's try that. I'll show you with the marker. So this one over here we want to keep maybe like this. Okay. This one might be a little bit off. So if I look at it with the marker, it might be a little off. I might want to take this side of the nose down a little so I can make it look like the other side. Right. So I'm gonna. This one's a little small, so I'm going to come in here a little closer and shape. Give myself a little more room by taking some off on each side of that round part that we had established at first with the gouge. See, carving's all about troubleshooting, and then again, smooth that up with an inverted gouge. Might be able to get in there a little better now. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to invert this gouge. And I'm going to come from the side here. I'm going to push it in. Just like that. Okay. I'm going to do the same on this side. And you kind of want to eye this, even though I have lines there. I'm not really caring if I'm on the line or not. I'm trying to make it so it's pretty much symmetrical. So just see how I'm pushing that into the wood there? Okay, then you can come up from underneath here and remove that chip. Now, I didn't set that real tight yet because I want to see how good it looks, right? It doesn't look too bad, so I'm going to dig it in deeper now. And really set that nose. Okay? Just like that. And we can always shave those lines off. You know, and we sand them up later. Now, I like high nostrils up in here. I also like to come down underneath and give them a little bit more of a wing, so I'm going to move the gouge, keep it right in the same circle, but I'm going to move it down, kind of just rotating it down here, alright? Just rotating it down around the nostril to keep it clean and keep the same line, and then I'm just going to push it in again. Now it's a little below, okay? There. And that'll give the bottom wing angle. Right, or the bottom part of the nostril anyway. Again, setting it in. Make sure it's in the same hole, the same groove. Sometimes I might shave it a little more. I'm going to just turn it, bring it down, keep it in the same groove, and give it a little twist there. Now I'll remove a little bit of wood underneath that. And that part will stand out. I'm going to give them the bottom part of the nose a little more. Okay? Give me the impression the nose is coming down a little. Sometimes you might have to shave that off a little at the bottom. That way it just doesn't look stuck on there. Okay, now we're going to need to get some wood out of there to have room for eyes. I did make the nose a little higher than I usually like to. I'm going to take a knife. I'm going to pick up this wing angle right here, or that smile line is what it is. I'm going to dig my knife in and follow that gouge cut. Kind of like just a little saw action. I'm going to pick up that line and bring it down, and right from the nostril over to that line where I just put a stop cut, following the smile line there. I'm going to take that chip out. See how it sets the nose back in there a little bit? Okay. I'm going to do the same on this side. And dig my knife in, go around the nostril, underneath. Pick up at the top, draw me a little bit of a stop cut right there. That's going to be the beginning of the other smile line. I'm going to pop that chip out. On the outside. Don't be afraid to make more than one cut. Okay? And just take that out. Just trying to get this nose to stand out away from the face a little bit more. And then underneath it, of course, we'll round it over. And we'll put some heavier detail in later. Don't worry about it if he looks a little chipped up. You can always take your gouge, go back in there, and smooth it back up. This nostril right here, we might have to trim a little. Get it to be even. Okay. Once we have the look we're looking for, then you can dig it out a little bit better. Right in the corners there. So you really establish that smile line. Okay? Good. Now, have to draw a mustache and have to give him a little more room for the eyes. We're going to do that with a small gouge. Okay, I have a small gouge here. Very tiny, right? A lot smaller than the ones we use for the nose. I'm not really good with sizes unless I look at them and know exactly. All I know is that's the size I need. Okay, I'm going to come over here, and you can do this with your knife. You can do it with any gouge you have. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise his eyebrows up just a little, get up and underneath here, just a little bit. And raise that eye bridge up and dig out underneath just a little. Give me some shadow. and a little more room to set an eye in there. Okay? I just raised it up a little bit. I'm just coming from underneath and scooping it up until I get about the appearance I want. It's kind of hard to do at an angle. I'm ducking away from the camera and underneath so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just raising that up. Trying to stay deep in the corners here, okay? Keeping it clean. Going over to the side of the nose. Make sure this little ski jump in there is fairly clean. You can take that ridge down a little more with this. This is a great tool for making hair the size of this gouge. Again, it's a flex cut. I'd have to look up the numbers, but a lot of times I just do that with my knife. I just take the eyebrows higher. Get the eyebrows higher. Okay. Now, we gotta make sure this is round enough that we can put a mustache on here. Like I said, he's got divots in the side of his, on this side of his face is a real big valley here. I don't know if you can see that on camera or not. So what I'm going to do is take advantage of that, because I like to dig out from underneath the nose anyway. On both sides, it kind of thins his face down. So if you can stay underneath the nose from like here, you know, and then take out like here and here, it really gives him a neat look. So we're going to use a round gouge for that. Or maybe that big flat one even. Again, it's just got a little bit of a sweep on it. I'm going to put him in my folder. Okay, this one again has a little bit of a curve. See that? Is that sweep? So what I'm going to do is come up here and go over into the bark over here just a little bit. We're going to kind of establish a cheek area there. Try and get this taking advantage of that little gully we have there already. So then when I do it to the other side, he'll look more even on both sides. Okay, so I'm taking that out. Okay, you got to make sure you stay under the nose here for this. So we got that out. Over here on this side, stay underneath the nose. Same thing. We're gonna. This will help really form up the mustache area here too. It'll raise that part up. Right? I'm trying to do this lefty and stay out of the camera at the same time. Here. Okay. Then I got that little divot there on that side, so we want a little more on this side. Usually I hold these in my hand, and it's a lot easier to just maneuver around the wood as you go. Okay, see cheeks starting to form here. We can use that or we can change it. Now we're going to try and round that off just a little bit more with a flatter chisel. Take away these little lines here. Make sure we round everything over. I'm going to try not to cut out that bottom wing that we added to the nose here, because we're going to dig that out with a gouge and make that look a lot more natural later on. Now he's getting some kind of neat shape to him. We're using the shape of the wood that's going down into the bark, trying to follow the contour of the wood to the side, but leave myself enough to give me a mustache here. Again, if we take too much off, there'll be no room for a mustache. We won't have any wood here. You know? So I'm just shaving away, light shave. Trying to shape it so it's symmetrical fairly on both sides. And again, don't worry about any little chips. We'll clean them up later. If there's any little chips left. You do want to keep it as clean as you can as you go. I haven't put eyes in or anything yet. We're just roughing them out and figuring out the shape that we want this guy to be, okay? Again, this should be lower than the nose for it to stand out. We're going to put a mustache there. I'm going to get the marker. Usually your mustache, we already have it started where the cheeks are, right? And that smile line, we're just going to pick up that smile line. I'll kind of give him a little bit thicker mustache. You can give him big ones, fat ones, thin ones. Right. You see how that natural smile line is going to turn into the outside of his mustache. Right here. Okay, now you might have to change that a little. I'm not the best drawer. Usually I just start cutting and I shape them as I go, but I'm trying to give you an idea. Once you do so many of these guys, you don't do too much drawing. I know a lot of carvers that do. I myself don't. It's good reference. You might want this thicker, maybe over here. But once you've done so many, you know how much wood you have and how to adjust it. When I look in the camera, he looks really off. But that's okay. Alright, don't worry about that. We'll fix him up. Now, if I can find the little V tool that I had, put that back in my holder here, and maybe we'll just use that to get him started. Come up on the outside over here. Just like that, on the outside of that line, okay? And I'm just going to come up into that smile line a little bit. Trying not to take my nose nostril out. Okay. Then I'm going underneath. Take some wood out, take the line off. And the same on the other side. Okay, go underneath. We're going to shave up to that. Go right up the outside of that line. And try not to hit your nose. Now there's a lot of different ways to do this. I'm just trying to explain as I go, and I know I'm very boring and it's long, but it's the only way I can think of to show you how to really do these guys, is to try and explain what I'm doing as I go. Now we still have a marker line there. I'm going to shave that off. I'm going to turn my straighter gouge over. This is the one he's fairly straight. He's got a very, very slight sweep, not much at all. Okay, just enough that if I turn it over, he's a good shaver, and he'll round it ever so slightly, so I can dig it into the chin there. Yeah, the chin, into the cheek. Now, if you don't have chisels, you can just do all this with your knives, your carving knife. I haven't even picked up my knife yet. Right? Same here. I'm going to go underneath, kind of round it. You don't have to do it this way. You can make it really flat there, but we'll give him a pretty decent lip. I'll round the wood and leave as much as I can for now, and see what I want to do with it later. And then take some mustache, that marker off the mustache. Now, if he's not deep enough, we just simply take out more wood around him and underneath him. Okay, you want something to stand up, you got to remove the wood around it and underneath it, or one or the other. A lot of times it's both, as far as the mustache goes. Right? So I want that mustache to stand out more now. So now that I have him set about where I want him, I'll start removing some wood underneath. Again, you could do this with your knife. It seems to be easier with the palm gouges. I could probably use this whole flat gouge to carve the whole thing. I'm going to undercut them a little bit, or stop cut them. Push up. So I get more shadow. You get a good stop cut in there and then undercut it a little bit. Okay. You will start getting more shadow. Okay. Probably about 1/8 of an inch is good. Or you can go as deep as you want. Then you have to round mustaches off, and you can run into trouble later sometimes if you go too deep. Just want it to catch some light and get some shadow underneath there. Right. Make a nice stop cut. I'm using the chisel because I don't feel like picking up my knife yet. But it works really good. You make a good stop cut with your knife. And cut underneath there, you'll get a lot of shadow. Again, down here a little bit, keep it round. We want to keep it round this way. Okay, his mustache is starting to stand out nicely now. We'll round all this off. Can do it. I know my hands are in the way a lot, but I don't really have a camera, man. I'm just rounding them off with same chisel, inverted, just a little bit. And if I make them too flat, what do? We cut underneath them again. Go to the outside and dig that in. That's where you'll see the knife come in handy. I'm going to clean up here a little bit more. And once you start putting the deep lines in, deep stop cuts and stuff, then you'll see him really start shaping, because it starts throwing shadow. Carving's all about shadows. And when you can get some deep shadows and some depth in these carvings, they really pop. Okay? Just trying to leave wood for now. Like I said, we want to leave enough wood so we have that to work with later. Okay. I'm going back to that round tool because over here on the side, he looks a little bit uneven. I want to just make sure I have that scooped in. Maybe I can use that to my advantage where he's getting into the bark here. Get some shadow there. Up here, still going to the side away from the mustache. Okay. I'm trying to get around the mustache, take a little on the outside of that mustache so when we cut those lines in later it'll really stand out. Everything will flow nice, right? Now, up in here, I'm going to want this hairline to come probably sweeping over. You know, all of this. This is all going to be hair up in here. I'm going to have it go to here, out to the side like that. And this right here, I really like to give him some shadow, so I'm going to cut this in this way. I'll show you what I mean then. This one's going to come down to here, probably. We'll take some of this bark off, and then over that way. Right? Frame that out. I really like when this part right here sinks in and the hair just flows off of his face and into the beard. So that's where we get our knives out. Okay. First of all, what I'm going to do is I got to get a hairline started here. I'm going to start here for now on the side. I'm going to go to the outside of that messed up mark that I just drew. Okay. Make me a stop cut, and I'm going to dig it in. Remove the wood. Like that. Okay. And get a little shadow on that side. Start a hairline. Up here, same thing. See, we have bark there, so I just want to keep as much bark as I can. And make sure I got plenty of room to set that eye in and start a little bit of the hairline there. We're just getting started here, so bear with me on the hair. Alright, see how I have a lot of room over here yet? I can just take that little chisel that we had before, a little flat one, and take this and extend that eye over. That way I have lots of room for the eye. Okay, and still can have hair. It's important you have to think of those things as you're going, otherwise you end up with not enough room for one or the other. Okay, from here we're going to take this down a little bit. Cutting from the inside and into the bark, alright? Stop cut there. Cut from the inside and try and get it to shave into the bark. So when you pop that out, you have some bark left. See how I go? Whoops, dropped my knife. See how I got the cheek in there now? Alright, so make a stop cut. Come from the cheek down, not from this side in, right? Stay on the inside of the bark, not on the outside, and try and get it to kind of scoop a little bit. It's almost like a scooping cut with your knife. To keep the face on the inside of that, alright? If I took him off and turned him, you'd get to see a little bit better. So now we have that cheek right there looks about even with this one. I'm going to shape up this side. Again, I want to go into the bark. So I'm going to make a stop cut so I don't take all my bark off. Right. And I want to shave his cheek into the bark from here. You could use that round gouge too. I'm using the knife here. Keep it. And just cut into your stop cut. Push that face into the stop cut there. Okay? And then the bark will start framing around his face. This hairline up here, we're going to bring it up now. To about there. From the inside, go in and on into the stop cut. Stop cut, you put the stop cut there, and then when you push wood into it, of course you already cut there, so the wood falls out, and that'll stop your cut from going way up and take chunks of wood off that you don't want to come off, right? That's basically what a stop cut is for beginners out there. Alright, get my brush. Now I could set this in with my knife, get a little bit more depth up in here around the hair. Same thing, stop cut first. Go around the face. Underneath here. Start rounding off his forehead. Really hard to do at this angle. This goes a lot quicker if you're holding them, or if I didn't have to worry about getting in the way of the camera. But I'm in no hurry. I'm out in the shop. Enjoying myself as I work. Okay. There you go. See, so now he's starting, his forehead's getting set in a little bit better. And I'll show you a little trick also. If he starts looking a little too gnarly for you, you know, you take a little bit of 220 sandpaper, and you can always just touch them up. Take some of the fuzzies off of them, shape them. You can actually shape this cottonwood bark will shape really good. You don't want to really pound it with sandpaper because you will and can sand all your detail out. Right? We haven't really put a lot of detail in yet, so. But if I want to round his nose off, clean up around his nostrils, alright, we're going to dig those out with a smaller gouge later. You can sand the marker lines off. Places he's got little cracks and stuff. 220 really works nice. So I'll sit there and sand them a little bit and clean them up and see what we got here. Sometimes it makes a big difference in your perception of what you want to do next and what you're going to end up with. Always after sanding, brush your carving. Get a nice little whisk brush, okay? Because I will tell you one thing, sandpaper will dull your tools in a second. Okay, so the last thing you want to do after sanding your carving is go right back with your knife or one of your gouges. It will dull your tool and chew it up, and then you end up stropping your tool or having to sharpen it. Alright. Okay, under here, I really want to dig in his mustache a little bit better now. Now you see the difference when you actually take a knife to it. Alright. So all I'm doing is making another stop cut. Taking a little more wood out there. Keep your fingers out of the way, of course. And again, like I said, once you start giving it depth, cutting this from this angle, take me a second to get the idea. Now again, we still have it a little high in the middle. Alright. Okay, now you're starting to see a little bit more. I'm going to fan out a little here. Look, wrong way. Okay, see how we're catching that shadow now? Alright. Starting to really get the shadow underneath the mustache here. Now we do have to put some eyes in. Little chip there. Let me show you a little trick there. I don't really like to draw a lot. I'm going to use a pencil for the eye. If I do the marker, it might be a little too much. So I'm going to really zoom the camera in for eyes. Because everybody asks about the eyes. Right. Now let's see if we can. That should be pretty good, huh? Okay. Now with the pencil, a lot of times I like to make the eyelids first. There's a lot of ways to make eyes, but they should be about the width of the nose. This guy, I'm going to raise up his eye a little bit there, like that. We're going to make one cut. Corner nose. Try and keep these as even as you can. And all I did was that. I made two round, because the eyeball's round, right? But this is going to be kind of the lid, the top lid of his eye. And we can put that in a lot of different ways. I guess the easiest way is to show you is with a V-tool. Right, that's a little round for me, but I'm trying to, again, to make it as easy as I can for you. This one right here, don't worry about if it looks deeper than, or this one, you know, has a line that looks like it's lower because of the angle, but they'll be okay. We'll take all that out. What I'm going to do is take my V-tool. Alright, the V-tool, wow, that's really zoomed in there. V-tool comes in a little bit of a V, alright, and it makes grooves. For those of you that don't know, alright, and what we're going to do is just follow that line. And make a groove. Okay? Now when you use a V-tool tool too, you have to lay it so the cutting edge is on the outside of that line, because if you did it right in the center, you go a lot higher than you wanted to. So that takes a little practice with a V-tool. If you go and you buy a couple carving tools, make sure when you get a V-tool or a gouge, you run it through a piece of wood. Draw a couple lines on the wood and run it through a piece of basswood or something, and make sure you know how it works before you try and do an eyelid or something and mess up your eye. Okay? or other parts of your carvings. We're going to do the same thing on this side. My elbow's probably in the way there, but all I'm doing is making a line. Okay? There, so now we just took out a little bit. Now you can also, to really make those stand out, go on top of that line and cut another one shadowing that one, and that'll give you the shadow that you're looking for. I'll show you what I mean here. To really set that eyelid in. See that? So I went on top and just kind of followed the same sweeping curve that I did for the, over here. I'm looking at the camera, I was on the wrong one. Right here. Okay? So here we go, we're going to do it on this side. We're going to bring that out. Okay? Now we have a lid. Now you can see those lids standing up. Okay, I'm about to run out of tape here, so I'm going to put some pupils in really fast and then switch tape so we can finish this. I'm making this DVD a little bit long, probably explaining too much. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little tiny gouge. Alright, again, I don't know if you can see this gouge so close. I haven't zoomed in so much. But very, very tiny sweep on it. Can you see that? If I hold it. Got a very tiny sweep on it. Alright. And I'm going to use this pupils in with the iris, or what you would call it. You want to stay and go underneath the bottom line, alright, your lid. So, and a lot of times I like to make them looking to the side, not just straight out. So all you do with this is you're going to push it straight in. Stay underneath. Give it a little bit of a turn. Stay underneath that bottom one and pull it out. There's a chip up there, we'll pop that off, but it actually leaves like a little pupil there, you see that? Same on this side. That one's a little bit up. It's kind of almost like he's looking up here because of the angle in the camera. We're going to do the same thing, probably about here. Give it a start. Give it a turn. Go straight in. Okay, you can make them as deep as you want. Not to get too big, and then we'll pop those chips out with our knife later. And just to give you an idea, I'm going to use a different knife I have here. We'll go inside. Try not to mess up your line that's on top. And pop those chips out. And we can clean those up later. But that right there is all we're doing for now. Okay? Just to give you the idea of how to make eye holes. Okay. Good. I'm about to run out of tape. This needs to be cleaned up. I have a lot of cleaning up to do. To get the 220 out. The pencil lines to take off. So maybe when I switch tapes I'll sand them down, clean them up. Now I do have him too high on the bottom here. Let me show you. On the bottom here, as we zoom out, this is way too high. Okay. I'm going to have to take a lot of this down to get this side symmetrical, because this side right here, if you look at it from this angle, it's just not looking right. It's not lining up. And I won't be able to dig the cheek in and get it to flow into the beard right. So I'm going to take this down with a bigger gouge and get some of that wood. I'm just going to roll until my tape is done. But that's what I'm doing here. It's a little high there. And I still have a lot of wood to remove here to get it to fan into that left side, your left. Okay, and I could use a bigger chip in my mallet, but I don't really have the board for a mallet the way I have him set. So I'm going to go off camera, and I'm going to take all this wood down, change tapes, and I'll come back. But I'm going to take this down so I can actually take the mustache and flow it into the bark on both sides and the beard hair. And this is way too high here, so I'm going to have to take some of that wood out from underneath. Again though, I'm trying to stay kind of high in the middle and go out to the side and into the bark. Okay, that's all I'm going to be doing here. And I'll show you when I come back what we've done. Okay, we're back. I sanded him down a little bit more, and then I went in with the gouge and pretty much a big flat chisel, and took a lot of this down so I could get the face a little more even on this side. This was way too high, like I said. And I cleaned him up a little bit, cleaned around his nose, hit him up with some 220 sandpaper. Got a lot of the, gouge marks and stuff out. So now we're ready to start forming his lip here. A lot of times you don't have to give him a lip. They look neat just the way they are. We'll give this guy a lip just so you guys get to see how you carve one. And give him some beard hair and some detail. And start putting some detail in. Do his hair up in here and everything. Okay. What I'm going to start first with is a little gouge to get his lip. Now we can draw a line again so you guys can see. Usually on smaller carvings you don't have to give him a lip. You can just run all the hair up into under the mustache and it looks kind of neat. But if you do want to give him a lip, we even carve pipes and stick a pipe hanging out of his mouth. That always looks neat. If we have time on this tape, maybe we'll do something like that. Don't hold me to that though. It's already into my second tape here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line for where I want his lip to be with the marker. And it doesn't have to stay there. It can move up or down if I don't like it. Okay, just kind of giving you a reference point. And then we'll make the beard hair would actually, come down like that and go into his bark there, right in the bark. Right up in here though, you can use a lot of different tools. You can use a V tool, right? I don't usually like using a V tool for the lip. I like to get the small gouge again, okay, with a little bit of a sweep on it. Or you can get one U gouge, which is, let's see, I should have a U gouge over here, a small one. Could even use something like that. It's a really deep U shape. I don't know. There you go. Probably see that. See the U on that? We'll use this one for a minute. And put it in my holder here. And it'll take out a pretty deep line underneath that. We want to try and carve the line away as we go. Let's see if you can see without me being in the camera. I notice a lot of my body is in the camera. It's just really hard with the camera behind me. Kind of looking over my shoulder here. So all I'm doing is taking that line off for now. To establish where we want that lip. Okay. Then what we're going to do is go to our detail knife, shave up to it. Underneath there'll be a little stop cut there. I'll get it from this side. Where we want the appearance of it going underneath the mouth, so I'm going to stop cut at the corner there, and at this corner here. And then under the mustache on that corner, okay, and remove that little chip there and make it a little bit deeper by the corners of the lip under the mustache, just like that. over here. Try and get that up underneath the mustache pretty good. And then deepen the cut right there in the corner. It doesn't have to be too far down. And you want to remove the wood at the corner there of that little V cut you just put in. I'll give the appearance of the lip going under the mustache a little more. And we'll just look at like he's stuck on. Okay. And when you hold him up this way, especially, when we turn him towards us, because he is leaning back, it'll look like it's going right up underneath that mustache. I'm going to take his lip down at the top here a little bit, make sure that goes under, kind of rounding that over. And at the very top, I'm going to deepen the shadow with a nice triangle cut, and take that out for some shadow up there as much as I can. And I'm not even using the best knife for this video. I have 2 different knives. I got to make a couple more. I always break the tips off my knives, but since this is cottonwood, the basic rule for wood carving, I mean, you should always have sharp tools. But anything that's harder than the actual wood, if it's got an edge on it, we'll cut it. I mean, I've used nails and walnut crackers and all kinds of little things to make little divots and whatever I can. I improvise whatever I have laying around the shop if I don't have time to make another knife, because I usually make my own knives. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll get a hacksaw blade or some 01 steel. I'll grind myself a blade, sharpen it, and then I'll epoxy it into my own handles that I make. This one right here is a cherry handle, and then put a design on it. Polyurethane it, and got myself a nice little carving knife. And I use all my own knives. But I do tend to snap the tips off them because I like them really thin and a little bit longer in the beginning, and I make them so thin I tend to snap my tips off, and then I just keep carving with it until I get tired of it and I make another knife. Okay, so right here we got our lip established pretty good. Let me show you how to start forming the beard hair. And we could use that little gouge here. The idea here is to start making wavy lines and give them some movement. You just don't want them all to come straight down. If you nick that lip up there, don't worry, we can clean that up later. But what I want to do is take those out a little bit deeper before I go to putting the deep detail in, because it tends to really make it flow nicer instead of just having some deep grooves right from where we're at. So I'm going back to my number 7 here, and what I'm going to do is try and give him a little bit of highs and lows by taking some scoops out and making some spots higher and some spots lower before I actually put my deep hairlines in. Okay? I'm going to stay out of the camera. You want to make sure you don't take any of your lip off or your mustache or anything. But anything that breaks up the surface of the wood just a little bit better, gives them a little more realistic look. Because obviously the hair just doesn't come straight off your face, it goes every kind of which way. And it's not all just a series of lines. I mean, it has some spots where it's higher and some spots where it's lower. Okay, so I usually start with a bigger rounded gouge. And I'll make a bunch of high spots and low spots. Take some of it in the bark so you can run your hair right down off the carving into the bark, which always looks nice. Okay, so we're just trying to break it up a little bit. Maybe a a little more on this side before we actually put the hair in. Okay, so it gives them a little bit more texture. Okay, you do the same to the mustache, but I'm not going to use this real big one. Over here on the sides, I'm going to establish his cheeks in a little better with the same gouge. It's, like I said, this is more of a scooper. It's got more of a sweep to it. And I'm going to come up in here and just kind of concave the sides of his face a little bit better. So he really looks like he's thinning out in that area. And pushing it into the bark carefully. So when I get my detail knife out and cut some of those heavy lines in there, we'll get some good shadow. Again, we're going to scoop our wood into that little divot I put in there, like so. Try to create some shadow. Now that makes him stand out a little better on that cheek. Okay, and this right here, like I said, we'll hit that with 220 or something and make sure that that's out of the way. That line, that'll come off with a little bit of sand and a little more work there. Same on this side. I'm going to come over here, pushing it towards the bark. Now if your face is thin enough, you don't have to do that. I just don't like the way these look. I want a little bit more shadow in that area. So on my carving, I'm doing it. You don't have to on yours. If you like yours the way he is, by all means leave him alone. Sometimes less is more, you know. Had some really nice carvings. I said, I think I'll make that look a little bit more this or that, and sometimes you gotta know when to stop too. Sometimes I'll take a smaller gouge and get in there and scoop out some spots. Can't get with my big one. Make sure he's kind of even where I want to. Get what I'm looking for. Get it symmetrical. Okay. Just really want that hair to stand out when I do put my final detail cuts in. Okay, so now we have that flowing off. A little bit over here, I want to take that down. I'm going to use that same little U-gouge. Okay. And on the outside of the mustache here, I want it to be a little bit higher on this side than it is in the back, so that mustache stands out and away from the rest of the hair that's going to be coming in there, which I can put in right with this little gouge. So there's no doubt about where the mustache is and where the hair is. Same on this side. Let me drop it down. I really don't have this table mounted on anything. So what I have to do is hold it with my knee as I carve here. This is just a quick setup. Okay, so now the mustache is really standing out on this side, really standing out on that side. What I can do is go to the other side. If I can get it a little bit better on this. There we go. Now I can get at it. Kind of hard from the angles I'm working at. I want to show you a little trick to really make him stand out. Go back to the other side. Walking past the fingers every time I duck down. What we're going to do is really make all this pop up in here with we have the smile lines in here. See how deep these are? If you can give him extra lines in his face, it really gives him a lot of character. So what I want to do with this guy is show you how I get some secondary smile lines in later on, right after we sand him down and he's ready for it. He's not quite ready for it yet, but I'll show you how to do that when we're almost done, you know, when we're done with a lot of the hair, and you'll see what a big difference it really makes in this carving. I'm going back to the little bitty gouge. This isn't the U gouge. Alright, I wish I knew the numbers on these, but I'm really not good at remembering the sizes. Anyway, this is a very small gouge, right? Smaller than the big one that we use to scoop some of these highs and lows in. So I'm going down a size, basically, with the same type of gouge, right? And I'm going to just make those a little bit more evident, so I can get right inside the groove that I already made and deepen it, cleaning it up. This way you're getting ridges instead of just lines. It rounds them off, makes them look more natural. I'm going to put some final cuts in with the V-tool. And actually shape some hairs where you want them. Once he gets high on one side, low on the other, you can start forming little points if you want, whatever. But play with it. Doesn't have to be exactly like mine. Use your imagination. I also use this little gouge to clean up, because it's a lot easier to sand off a small cut than it is a really deep cut with a knife, or a big scoop from a huge gouge. Okay, so now he's got a little bit more there. I'm going to clean up under his lip a little bit. Turn this over and round his lip off. Might not work. I might have to go to a flatter gouge there. A little too much scoop. If you're taking off too much wood, change your tool. The big thing with these, I invert them a lot, and because once you start working with carving tools, you realize, gee, if that tool has a roundness to it like that, if you turn it over, it's going to form that kind of roundness on your carving. Right? So the tool always dictates whatever shape the cut is going to be. So a lot of times, if you're trying to round something off, it's not the best idea to use a flat little chisel, you know, unless that's exactly what you're trying to do, is have that type of cut. So try and get a tool that fits the task that is at hand. And that's a big, big thing to make some of your work really stand out a lot different than if you're learning that now, for instance, you know, and you should try doing that. You'll probably have a lot of success and realize a lot of things work a lot better when you realize the shape of the tool you're using is actually going to give you the shape of that cut. Okay? Took me a while to realize that when I first started. Okay. Underneath the eyes here, let's show you how to finish some of those. I'll zoom back in. And we want to clean it up first. Kind of like to keep it clean as I go once I get to this stage. Makes it a lot easier to put details in. Again, I'm using 220 sandpaper. Taking our time, trying to give you as many little tips as I can on this video. So you can always fast forward through it to the parts you want to see again. Something nice about video, I don't really teach classes on wood carving because I myself don't consider myself the best carver. I mean, it's always about learning, and I learn every time I carve. And that is the foundation to all learning, I guess, is realizing that you know next to nothing and you can always improve. If you think you're really good at what you do, you'll never really strive to get any better, I guess. So, I know a lot of carvers out there that are a lot better than me. And that's the key, is to learn from them. I like seeing their work, the ideas they come up with. So I would recommend get as many carving books and tapes as you can. There's a lot of great carvers out there. And then there's a lot of great carvers out there, and I've tried to learn from them, and they put videos up, and you can get videos or their books. And I realized too, just because they can carve doesn't mean they can teach somebody how to carve. I've run into that already. Where, yeah, they could do it themselves, but they never really explained it so I could understand it. So I tend to take a little more time and try to tell you some of the problems you're going to run into, because I was a beginner too and still had a lot of questions. So it's always good to have reference material on a DVD to go back to. So that's why I talk so much, I guess. If you ever have questions on any of these DVDs, you can find me on YouTube. I have a website, Sticks and Stones Woodcarving.webs, WEBS.com. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have, help you out in any way. The Sticks in Sticks and Stones is spelled S-T-I-X. You see it at the beginning of this video. So just give me a call. My phone number's up there if you have to, if you'd like to order anything from me. Maybe you'd like me to make you a knife or whatever. Okay. Or maybe even buy a carving. Okay, we got that sanded down. What we're going to do is show you how to do these eyes, because we set them in pretty fast. Didn't take long, did it? A lot of people have problems with eyes. What I want to do is show you an easy way to finish the eyes. Again, we have this little U gouge. Now, he might be a little bit deep, but one thing nice about Cottonwood is if you go too deep, you can always sand it out. Like I said, if you sand too much, you'll sand your detail right out. So I'm going to take that, and with a pencil, see if I can show you here. Let's zoom in so you can see this. Really try and get up so you can see up close. What we're going to do here is go right to the corner of that lid that's underneath. Alright, just a second. Why is the tape jumping here? The second line, it was the first line we did, not the second one on top, the eyelid. Right? And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the corner of that. And remember, the eyeball is round up in here. Right? It's round underneath the lid too in real life. So you want to kind of keep as close as you can to that roundness, you know, figure it out in your head. And go to the other corner. You don't want to come too far down, right? Because that thing's round in there, and if you would actually draw the eyeball in there, you want to keep that bottom line going right across where it would cover that. But you can imagine it in your mind. I don't know how else to explain that. You don't want to make it too big. Okay. So from there to there, same thing on this side. We'll keep it fairly close to that pupil. We don't want to make it too big. Okay. You can adjust. You know, you can always make it a little, that's a little off. It looks a little smaller than the other one. I can always change, make it a little bigger. And I'm going to take that U gouge and I'm going to follow that line. I'm going to try and stay underneath it. Alright? and take some wood out of there. You can also do this with a V-tool. The other side. I'm not really looking into the camera when I do this, so if my hand is in your way, I'm sorry. I'll try and do it lefty. See that? Okay, all I did was, I didn't go too deep. We're going to get the roundness by taking the corners out a little more. Okay. So now we'll go to our V-tool. And go, no, we won't go to V-tool yet. We'll go to our knife, I mean. And what we're going to do is come up to the corner here, dig our knife in. Point. Same thing on this side. Trying to get my hand out of the way again. Underneath the lid. And dig a corner out there. I'm really at an angle here, so I can't see. I'm not standing in front of the carving. And what you want to do is pop that chip. You just made a little triangle chip. We're going to pop it out. Okay? And we're going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to do this lefty. Dig in, stay underneath the lid. Okay? Dig it in. I'm staying right on the line of the shape of the eye that we made in there. Pop the chip out. Sometimes they don't want to go. Especially when you're at a funky angle like I am here. Okay? Then you can take your knife with the broken tip here and round off the rest of that eye. Okay, and the same over here. I'm digging that in, right in the corner there. Staying underneath the lid. Pop that corner out. Same over here, I'm going to stay under the lid. Dig in the corner. Dig in the corner. Pop that little triangle chip out. Okay. That sets the eyes in there, gives it the appearance of being round. Then you can work with a little skew with your knife or whatever, and whatever tools you have to round it off. You know, you want to go from up here and then to the sides into the corners there. Because if their eyes are standing up too high, you gotta remember he needs to be able to close that lid over that eye too, so it should go up and under here. Okay. In real life, if the eye was bigger, it wasn't underneath that lid, the eye wouldn't close. Does that make sense? So you do want to round those off, and if you don't round them off enough and get them a little bit flatter and underneath those lids, you end up with what we call fish eyes in the carving world. That's never good. Instead of looking realistic, he looks pretty goofy, and so it takes some time to round those off. But if you want to make a decent eye, it's worth it. And so that's what takes practice. And I'll probably work on rounding those off later. When I have them actually right in front of me, I'll round them really nice. Let me show you how to get some detail underneath that and make them pop even more. Going back to a V-tool. Sometimes I use the V-tool. Right. And even take some wood out into those corners. Now the big key here is that bottom line. You see that line going across? If I pick up that bottom line with my V-tool and extend it out a little bit, see what that just did? Okay? Gives you a little bit of room, and it really makes the eye set in there. So we're going to take right at the corner there, going from the corner out and extending that bottom lid out. Same on this side. It's going to extend out from that corner. Okay? Take some wood out of there. Good. Then we can actually add a little bag up in there if we want. I can go back to the U-gouge again and take some wood out like this. And we'll just put a couple of divots so we're going to put some more detail. Just down and over. On this side, it comes down like that. Take a little divot out there and then go down towards this side over here. Alright, see how he's starting to have a little character from those deep lines? And again, they're not set in stone. You can do it a bunch of different ways. But I'm planning on picking this line up and going right up in here, because I'm going to show you my next trick, which is to give him secondary smile lines, which really gives him a lot of character. Alright, what we're going to do is over here on the side of the cheek, I guess I should draw this. These usually, you see where this line up here comes? It starts here, alright, and then of course it's going over and down. This one right here is going to start right here, and then I'm going to pick it up right about there. And we're going to go down, just like that, and then sweep them over into the corner like that. And we're going to do the same thing up here. It's got to be above the nose a little. Anyway, I hate to draw because I might change, and I'll have to get rid of that line, but down like that. Okay. Now sometimes I'll actually sweep it up over, make it go that way. Right. Depends on what I like. I can always get rid of those lines. But basically what we're going to do is follow those first lines that we drew. So I hate to mark up the carving, but we can get it off. Again, going back to the U-gouge. I really zoomed in. Okay, this is the one that's a little bit deeper. I'm going to take that, and not push too hard though. I'm going to follow that line up. And right up, pretty much into the eye, almost. Shake the rest off there. Just so we have a nice little valley for our V tool to travel on and do it later. Now I could pick up this line and go over here into the cheek, but I like bringing it right down into the beard and going that way. So that's probably what I'm going to do, is just follow it down and push it out. And then when I clean this up in the face, I'll just make it go right into the beard. You see the difference in that? The character on that. Let me do this one and you'll see. And we haven't said anything really with shadow yet because this isn't a V cut. You want to watch your nose and again not take anything off your eye. Right? So you got to kind of wing it when you get up by the eyes there and try and get it to flow into everything. And every carving is different, so I don't want to give you a definite place. But usually you like to carve them right up into the eye, the corner of the eye. It's just hard to do this standing where I am. Okay, and that raises that up. Let me show you what a little bit of 220 does with that. That's for that. This really breaks up the surface. Now he doesn't look like he's just, you know, got round cheeks that have no character. Now he's got the deep valleys coming down the sides like like you see so many of these old characters have. Gives them a look of age and wisdom. Like I said, wood spirits, I'd really practice finding places to put character lines and wrinkles, and because the more of those you put in, even if the carving wasn't the greatest, detail makes a big difference, and people will say, "Wow, look at all the work he did on that," and it just gives them that much more of an interesting look. Okay, now I don't know how good you can see that, but I'm going to run my V-tool up in there now. Make sure I brush that. Run my V-tool up in there, and that'll deepen those lines even more. Right, and give us some shadows so they really pop. Again, I like to go up into about where the corner of the eye is there. Pick it up on this side a little. And then come down. Then we can go back over and take some of those bags that we did. Okay. Maybe put some crow's feet. Just see how the V-tool really darkens those shadows. Makes it pop. Okay, from there I have to shave me a pencil line off. Probably used a little one for that. Those lines that we did put in, I said I probably won't use those. So I'll end up cleaning those up. But for reference, you could take those smile lines and hook them right over, and then you have, they kind of make the part of the cheek sag, which is really an interesting look too. You know, if you go over to the side of the ones like this, and then we'll sand it off and shave it a little bit later. A little bit of 220 softens these so they blend together nice. If you sand too much or too hard, you could totally erase your smile lines there. So, here's your own judgment. And he has some smile lines and some crow's feet. We do the same up here. If we go to the eyebrows for a second. A little bit straight across, I like to use, again, that little tiny gouge. It's not a deep U gouge for this one, just the smaller one to round everything off there. And we might round it off a little. You don't want them too high. And what's nice about this gouge is when you start using it like this, it actually starts forming the highs and lows for your brows. Okay. So you figure out where you want your brow and just take little pieces off, make some highs and lows about the way you think you would want the eyebrow to look. Okay. I am going to take that divot out a little bit more across the forehead. And we'll bring that line up in the center. So I want his eyebrows to stand out a little more. And then over here on the side, when I get to the side, I might take a little bit of a bit. Again, it's a scoop like that. Now watch what we do here. We're going to take this You see that? You see the scooper we got? Not too big, right? This is one we used for kind of getting on the side there. We're going to take that, we're going to invert it. Just like this. We're going to push this in. Right there. Then we're going to come up. Cut to it. Right? And we're going to do the same thing on this side. Kind of round off that eyebrow. And dig that in like that. And come right up on the side of the nose here. In between. Take that out. Okay. Use this a little bit, round it off a little more. Use it to round it so it doesn't look so square. Okay. And then we'll take the little gouge across there and do the same thing. We'll start shaping our brows. Okay, so we're going to do the other eyebrow. Again, I'm going to take the little gouge and make me some divots across here. I'm trying to round them off. I don't want them to look too much of a hard line on top, so I'm going to kind of fan them out a little bit. Make a couple of small highs and lows. Trying to see so you can see here. Breaking it up just a little bit. Give them a couple highs, a couple lows, about where I want the brows to be, and in those little ridges. And if I really want to pop, I'll run my V-tool. A lot of guys just leave it like that. They hit it a little bit with sandpaper, and that's it, you know. Now we do the same thing with the mustache if we want to make hair. Now he can have hair or not. Some people leave that alone. Some people put some ridges in. Let me show you how to do that. Same thing. The same little bitty gouge. Okay. Just tiny. Not the U. It's a little too deep for this stage. So I like to kind of break up the contrast of the mustache with a couple of flow lines. Again, it's all about making highs and lows. Just so he doesn't look so, I don't know, unnatural. Give it a little bit of movement. It'll appear to have some movement anyway. Don't want to go too deep and take away from it, because we could have left him just the way he was and it'd look pretty good, you know. Just like to give him a little more flow. And wispy look. Is there any type of cuts you can make that break up the wood? Will make him appear to look a little more natural, a little more like real hair. His hair's kind of random. You know, it doesn't really just come down in straight lines, and like you see a lot of carvings. I've done a lot like that and never really liked the look. So I started learning to break it up a little more. I usually use a little gouge to do that. Then I'll take my V-tool and define them. I could probably just hit that with sandpaper and it would look half decent. But We'll add a little more depth with a V-tool. You round off the sharp edges. Break them up in spots, you know. Really trying to give you as many tips as I can during this video. A lot of people have asked me for one of these, so. Then I'll take that and use my sandpaper again and just kind of blend it together a little better. You know, with carving, you can always go back and always look, and there's always something else you can do to just make them look that much different or that much better with a couple little more detail lines. Like I said, there is a point you have to just say, okay, that's good. Unfortunately, sometimes I never get to that point. I always see something I want to do. But, so far, so good. Now, if you take the V-tool, like I said, remember what we did with the eyes after we made the grooves and then ran a V-tool through them? Look how deep they show, you know? So, we're going to do the same thing. A couple up here on the eyebrows. And you want to run them out that direction. A lot of people put them the wrong way. Including myself. I've done it. I'm talking from experience, not picking on anybody. And you see, now the eyebrows stand out. Right. Same on this side. You want to go the other way. Right? We'll come in. Just give them some lines in the grooves that you made. That's why I like to make those little ridges. You get a lot less tear out. It looks a lot more natural. I always like to deepen at the corner of the eye. Make sure those detail lines stand out. Okay. A little bit of cleanup. Okay, now we're going to do the same in the mustache. You just make these random. Sometimes if you just try and run them all the way up, like I said, it tends to not look as natural. Put some lines wherever you may. Use some of the highs and lows that you created with the little gouge. And always watch out for the nose. When I get down to the bottom, I like to run some underneath. Down off the mustache here. Kind of hard to do this angle, but I'm trying to show you. Try to get some of the flow off. Over here by the beard, we're gonna. Where the beard is coming off the cheek. We'll probably deepen that with a nice little shadow cut. Get a couple lines in there so you have the appearance of the beard flowing off the face, you know, and the hair. And you can go around this thing for hours. A little deep right here, I want a shadow, so I'll just dig it out a little. And then up into here. By our lip there. A couple lines on the highs, a couple lines on the lows. In the grooves, try and give them a little bit of movement so they don't look too rigid. Use your imagination. You can go crazy with this stuff. Now and then an extra line in the middle will give it the appearance that he has a lot more hair than lines you're actually put in. You don't have to carve each individual hair. You just have to have it set up so he'll appear that he has a lot of hair. And that's what really makes these guys great, is the detail. That's what makes them really pop. The long flowing hair, big mustaches, lots of wrinkles. Those are the keys to a good woodsmere. Some good depth in spots on the sides of the face, the bark framing it. All those are little keys that I'm trying to cover here so people understand, well, if he just doesn't look right, maybe he needs a little more something something. And a lot of times you just need a little more shadow somewhere. You know, so take your time, carve each one like it's the only one that you have. Sometimes I carve for a living, so you know, sometimes you want to get so many done a week, and or you just don't feel like carving that day. I mean, that's rare, but it does happen when you have to do it every day and produce carvings so that you can come up with a paycheck that week. If you're going for the week, you know. I try to put so many things online every week. I have a couple websites. So I tend to have to, and I always run out. I always run out of carvings. I can't carve fast enough. Because people tend to buy them up pretty quick, which is a good sign, I guess. So I guess must not be too bad at it. I do have a lot of repeat customers, people that collect my work. And always finding new people that want a wood carving. I'm going to dig in right here. So it can get monotonous if you have to do it, you know. Like the old thing, it's like a guy who loves to fish, like I do. I'm a big fly fisherman. He likes to fish, so he opens up a fishing store, a bait and tackle shop, say, and then he never gets to fish. You know, it's the same thing with carving for a living. When you carve so much, you never really get to carve for enjoyment half the time, because, which is how it started with me, you know. And you end up getting tired of having to come out in the shop and make something, or you're not going to eat that month, you know, that week, whatever. So, oops, dropped my paper. But it sure beats working for somebody else. It's a great pastime. You can take a piece of wood, you can go out. I'm going to do a video on found wood soon, where we go out in the woods to show you how to find them. Show you how to find pine knots and carve one of those. That's a real trick if you don't know what you're doing, because that took me years to figure out where are these guys getting these things, and where are these guys, how are they cutting them. Once I found a couple, they were so hard. So that would be a really good video, I think, which I might do next. Show you how to find pine knots and cedar knots and make wood smears out of those. And just logs that you can find anywhere in your backyard. Sticks. Probably do a walking stick video soon too. That's a popular thing. Okay, he's starting to shape up really good. Now if I really wanted to make get this here to come in, I'd take my little gouge again and take some wood out here, and then probably run the V-tool off into the bark. Because when you do start getting into the bark like here, and you can make those lines go in the bark, it really looks neat. See how you can get those little hairs there at the bottom? I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm too close now. Forgot I had zoomed in on the eyes. It's not looking too bad, huh? Like I said, it's about shadows. When you stand away from a carving, you can really get the gist of what that carving is all about. When you're up close and there's a lot of light on it and you're not seeing the shadows as good, it can look like a whole different carving. It takes away from it, actually. So I'm messing around here. I should have stopped the tape because it's just making it long. Okay, let me show you one last thing, and he's pretty much done. Except for hair. Just running a V-tool off the sides here. Okay. So that hair kind of flows down there and into the bark. So the more shadows and the more detail that goes into them, the better they start to look. Okay. Same idea for the hair. On the top here, what I would do is take my little gouge, okay, and again make some highs and lows. Oh, tools are falling off the bench here. So I go across to about where I want it, and smooth it out, make some ridges, break it up, take it down to the side here. So all I'm doing is giving it the highs and lows we talked about, breaking up the surface, getting a little bit smoother, and give me some high spots and some low spots to run my V-tool through. Okay, and then you frame it with a good V-tool, and let me show you that. Take the V-tool, run it in deep, let it go up a little like this to the side. Let's see, sweep some of that hair. Off to the side. Another video I'll actually show you the part. This one's getting a little long, but you can part his hair here, and I like to dig that out with my knife really good and create some shadow up in there and make the hair start flowing the other way. Okay. Coming in from the bark on the other side. If you go around the back, then you can get some good shadow. Okay. Come right off the back of the carving there. Around the sides. Which I'll probably do. Down around this side here. Okay. Needs a little bit of sanding, a little bit of touching up. I'll look at them off camera. But that's pretty much one way so you can carve and pretty much get all the instruction you need to make it pretty decent. Maybe better than mine. Cottonwood bark wood spear. Brush them up. Pop them off. The board here. And we'll zoom out a little bit so you can see. What we ended up with. Okay, now if I take him outside and you could really see the shadows, you'd see all the detail really good. Okay, well, he's a good to fix. See, he's got some depth, he's got a profile. See how his nose is dug in there? There you go. Okay, so thanks for watching. I'm going to try and make a couple more vids, like I said, so watch for those on my website. It's Sticks and Stones Woodcarving, S-T-I-X and Stones, woodcarving.webs, W-E-B-S.com. Look for it in the credits. Thanks for taking the time to carve with me, and email me your comments. I'll put my email there too if you like this video and you want to see more. Happy carving.